Hey guys, Coder here. I'm gonna be teaching you guys some basic JavaScript today. So if you want to open this coding window, just go to ssjstash.net/jsrunner, like that. Should work in most browsers. There's not much that you need, so if it works for you, you can test just by typing something like print value 30 and use Control Enter or press this button and you should see that, and you can try code as many times as you want. And of course I'm gonna actually make a shortcut for this function, and I can use print instead of print value, and there's our values. We can also use clear, and now the entire text should be cleared every time I press Control Enter. Yeah, that's the basics. You know, you can call functions with arguments. You can. This means that it's a temporary variable. So I'm using this as a temporary variable, and I'm assigning it to the print value function that we had. I'm gonna teach you guys some basics with things like probably try to get some graphics going on. So I will just have to look into that though. So you know, there's the documentation. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to create canvas on our screen using this kind of code. And a canvas is basically something you can paint on. So I'm gonna use the exclamation mark means not. So an if statement or an if an if statement basically checks if something is true, but if you put that exclamation mark, it checks if it's not true, then it executes some code. In this case, I'm checking if the window object, this window object, has a variable called ctx. Well, actually, let's go with cv for canvas, and then we actually create the canvas in here. So we create an element, so when we create an object in the window, we can reference it without using this. There's a reason that I use window here, and it's because if you try to access an object's property that doesn't exist, it'll be undefined. So if window.cv is undefined, we can define it. When we define any variable, we need to use something like let or var or const to let the program know which kind of variable we're creating. But I just want to add a property onto the window. I don't want to make a temporary variable, so that's why I'm using this, so that this is basically a global variable across the entire program. That's what the window does. And we're gonna try to actually get a context. So yeah, this creates the canvas, and this actually puts it onto the window. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the context, which is the 2D drawing context, so that we can use the context in order to call drawing functions. is going to be global as well. And then we're just going to fill a rectangle inside this canvas. This is basically going to say the width and the height of the canvas is how wide and how high our canvas actually is. It'll basically paint the entire canvas in whatever color. And then we're going to print this message. And I'm going to also print this. So the reason that we want to only create a canvas if one doesn't exist is pretty obvious. If we already have a canvas, we don't want to create another one, keep creating them every time we run. So we check first. If it doesn't exist, then we actually create the canvas. Okay, so we have a canvas now, but we cannot actually see it. Okay, so probably gonna need to move the canvas and mess around with it. At the moment, I don't know, have no idea where it actually is. So temporary variable, use this. We're gonna set the right and the top coordinates of the canvas, and then we're also going to mess around with the Z index to make it actually like if it's behind, it shouldn't be, but if it's behind, where is it? Is this the issue? If it's behind this stuff, we won't be able to see it, and then the Z index might change that. Okay, it didn't, so maybe we're gonna try print the context, make sure we still have the context, and then we're gonna try to paint it. So we're gonna use the fill color. Okay, fill style. I'm not very familiar with Canvas, that's why I'm referencing this. Wonder if I need stroke. I didn't think so. Oh. Try this. Alright, there's our canvas. So I forgot this part. I don't think we even need the Z index. Oh, we do. Huh. Alright, let's just do that. And we're actually going to paste this in here so that every time we create the canvas, you know, say we reload the page, our code should be saved, but there should be no canvas. Actually, let's set the width and height as well. I'm gonna use 400 by, actually 320 by 240, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to change the position of this canvas, so maybe 800 and yeah, let's try that. Okay, that's way too far down. Try 500. 180. There's our canvas. So we're gonna be able to mess around with it at this point. This is just so that we know when we press try, the number will change, so we'll know that the program actually executed, just for aesthetics and confirmation, I guess. I'm going to show some very basic functions that you can use. We could probably just copy this code and it may actually even work. Yeah, so drew a little house. We can change probably the color. Let's see if this does anything. Cool. Wonder why it doesn't actually draw the door. I have no idea. But that's basically the most basic thing you can do with, you know, basic JavaScript stuff. You know, you can print out text or whatever, you can play with that. I could probably make a tutorial on how to mess around with this. Actually, I don't think I can even do that. Yeah, I think that I could make a bit of a tutorial on how to animate something or something of the sort, but I don't think that I'll do that right now. Instead I'm just gonna show you some basic stuff you can do. You know, you can do things like draw a rectangle, right? You use fill style to tell it the color. You might say something like blue, and then fill a rectangle 0, 0, 10, 10. And then you just press try and you should see that. Then you can paint a yellow one. Oh. You can barely see that. In order to be able to see it, we can actually draw a background, which is black. There, now we can actually see it better. And we can also try animating something. Let me think, how do we do this? I'm gonna create a function. I'm gonna create an animation flag. Alright, cool. So there's a function that can clear an interval, and I'm going to explain just in a second what an interval actually is. There's a function in JavaScript, setInterval, that you can use. You give it a function and you give it the amount of milliseconds for every time you should call that. So we're going to basically let's see here. So every second, we're going to divide it by 60. 1 second is 1000 milliseconds. We're going to divide that by 60, which means that it's going to refresh 60 times per second. And it's going to run this function, run animation, right? We're going to create a JavaScript object, which is going to represent the animation. I'm going to call it a object. Gonna give it some X and Y coordinates. And then every animation frame we're going to increase the X coordinate by 1 and the Y coordinate by 1. Draw at location, and then we're actually going to draw. Actually, first we're gonna just clear the, we're going to draw the background, then we're going to draw the little square. I'm just going to change this to be a little bit bigger and more visible. That's better. And this should pretty much work. Not right now because I haven't actually activated it. Oh yeah, I forgot something. Actually, we're going to do that. I'm going to use the animation interval variable to store this, and then every time we're gonna check if it's a valid variable. If it's not undefined, then we're gonna clear that interval, because when we start the program this should be undefined. Now we're actually going to start the animation. So this is a function declaration. We're setting this to a new function. And then, you know, in here we're obviously running the animation. Let me just change this. So at the moment it's not drawing at the actual proper coordinates. And there's our basic animation. I'm gonna also teach you a little bit about how to, like, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it bounce around the screen. So we're gonna create two variables here. H speed, V speed, horizontal speed and vertical speed. We're going to give it the actual width and height properties that we can reference. Horizontal speed, vertical speed, and now we're going to check if it's out of bounds. The moment that it goes out of bounds, it's going to inverse its direction that it's currently going in. So if it's going to the right, it's going to go to the left. If it's going down, it's going to go up, whatever. So if the object x plus the width is larger or equal to the canvas width, then we're gonna invert that, the horizontal speed, and if the coordinate is smaller than or equal to 0, we're gonna put it back at 1. And then we're going to do the same for the vertical side, the y coordinate and the height. And let's see. I wonder why that's not working. Okay, there we go, that's better. So as you can see, there's our little simple animation. We can also change the color. Like, we can make it like go to random different colors. We might say math.random smaller than 0.25, then make it white, else. So math.random gives a random value between 0 and 1. Can make it go between these colors. really see the orange. Oh, right, that's why. Let's add another one. So guys, that's the basic tutorial for JavaScript. You know, a lot of people think that programming is some complex thing, and it's true that it can get complicated, but it's not true that it's something that, you know, only some people can do. It's like you have to do all these, jump through all these hoops, you know. You can open a page, write in some code, and become a programmer. That's all it takes. Obviously there's a lot of more complicated things you can do, and some of this stuff may be difficult for you to understand, all the different kinds of things that I use here. But, you know, the point is that anybody can become a programmer. And, you know, start simple, start small, play around with it until you can create bigger programs, games, applications, whatever. So yeah guys, that's the video, that's the tutorial. Hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and peace.